Hey everybody, welcome to Fellowship Games. Dakota here, and today we're going big and we're going red with the big red machine in standard. If you haven't seen this deck floating around, it's a mono red control deck that's using all the best red removal we have in standard, and it's going big with Ugin at the top end. To facilitate this go big strategy, we have Ugin at the top end and we have Ironcrag Feet to turbo it out. Ironcrag Feet can be pretty explosive. It can get Ugin on turn 5. And then also works very well with Shatterskull Smashing to deal massive damage across 2 creatures. And we can dump the mana into Crawling Barrens. And then to tie it all together, we have Solemn Simulacrum to fetch out lands and then draw cards when it dies. It's kind of the card that holds the whole deck together. Our removal package consists of a 2-2 split between Fire Prophecy and Scorching Dragonfire. They both have their own utility. Scorching Dragonfire can go after creatures and planeswalkers and also exiles when it dies. Fire Prophecy can only go after creatures. Gives us the extra utility of sifting through our hand. We can put a card that we don't like on the bottom and then draw a new one, so it can help smooth out our draws and give us an extra look at an answer we really need. And then we also have 1 copy of Soulseer, just to go after things with 5 toughness like Yorion. For more removal, we have 4 copies of Bonecrusher Giant, and there's nothing I can really say that hasn't been said about this card already. It's been one of the best red cards to be printed in the past 5 years. Stomp deals with early aggression, and then we have a 4/3 body to pressure the opponent's life total and to block with. We also have 3 copies of Storm's Wrath to deal 4 damage to all of creatures, and then we can also hit planeswalkers with it, which is really nice against Vivian and Ashiok. And then we also have 3 copies of Shredded Sail. Having 3 of these in the main deck is pretty sweet with Ember Cleaves and the Great Hinge running around, and then the 4 damage to a flyer is pretty relevant with all the rogues running around, and also we can use it to take down a Yorion in combination with something else. The other strength of this deck is we also have a bunch of removal hiding in the mana base with 4 copies of Spikefield Hazard to ping off early creatures, and we have the 4 copies of Shatterskull Smashing, which, like we mentioned earlier, works very well with Ironcrag Feet, and it's a nice 2-for-1 in general. For card advantage, we have 4 copies of Mazemind Tome. The package of Mazemind Tome, Solemn Simulacrum, and Ugin have kind of been synonymous with each other in any control and ramp strategies. So we'll be taking advantage of that. Mazemind Tome is honestly the MVP of the deck. You almost always want to be using it to draw cards when, you're already ahead, and you really want to just be scrying when you're trying to hit land drops or you're behind and you're looking for a specific answer. And then we also have Ox of Agonis for just refueling our hand when we've traded 1 for 1, and then we can just play it and draw 3. And escape cards are pretty insane against all the mill decks running around, so there is that extra bonus. So for our mana base, we have a lot of utility, like we talked about earlier. We have the 8 modal lands, but we also have Crawling Barrens as kind of a sneaky win condition. It's not hard to pump it on the opponent's end step every turn with all the extra lands we have lying around. And then it also works very well with Ironcrag Feet. And we also have 3 copies of Radiant Fountain to gain us some extra life. The downside to playing all these colorless lands is pretty mitigated, considering we have 13 mountains and then the 8 modal land red sources, so we have 21 red sources total, so having the Radiant Fountains and Crawling Barrens together shouldn't be problematic at all. Moving on to the sideboard, we have a lot of slots dedicated to being the Yorion decks. Beating the Yorion decks is rough, so we need a way to pressure them because our control plan just doesn't work. So we have 4 copies of Robber of the Rich and 3 copies of Phoenix of Ash. They're both good haste threats. Robber of the Rich can steal us extra cards that we might be able to play, and then Phoenix comes back from the graveyard over and over again with Escape, and we can add a lot of pressure to their life total thanks to the pump ability. We have some extra removal on the sideboard as well. We have 1 more copy of Soulseer, we have 1 more copy of Scorching Dragonfire, and we have a single Red Cap Melee. 1 Red Cap Melee is more than enough. It's very good and efficient against the mono red decks, but we're already good and efficient against the mono red decks, so just having 1 is good enough. And to finish off, we have 3 copies of Soul Guide Lantern to help against graveyard decks, and we have 2 copies of Chandra Heart of Fire for mid-range control matchups, anything we want to be grinding through. So that's going to do it for the Big Red Machine in Standard. Thanks so much for watching and paying tribute to Kane, the most goated performer in the Attitude Era. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please subscribe. We're trying to push to 100 subscribers by the end of the year, so we have a couple of weeks to double our subscriber base here. If you're looking for the whole deck list, check out the description below. We have the link to the article I wrote. Full deck list is there. Join the Discord. Follow us on Instagram. Thanks so much for watching and for joining the Fellowship.